Chapter 12. The prince stared at the monitors with unshakable stoicism, each of them displaying chart upon chart of reports significant enough to reach his attention. Casualty reports and number of injured, reports of possible deserters, estimated time until significant repairs could be completed, number of captured enemies, and, above all else, the empty monitor he awaited to flicker to life more than any other. "Cynthia is with her, my prince. She will first die before allowing a single harm come Clara's way," Redford replied as he stood behind the prince in his private quarters. "Ain't that the truth? She will turn to mincemeat anyone stupid enough to glare at Clara the wrong way," Juliana said, smirking. "My prince, would it not be easier to receive the information directly to your brain?" "It would be," the prince replied, unmoving. "But I prefer to read the information with my own eyes, if at all possible," he hummed deeply. "Perhaps I should have not agreed with Clara's plan. Dealing with criminals is not the same as dealing with noble houses and corporations." "True. Dealing with criminals is generally safer and more straightforward than dealing with nobility," Juliana retorted, earning a single nod from the prince. "If I may be so bold, my prince," Redford asked, and waited for the prince to give his approval. "I believe that Clara's intentions are good, risky but good. She's calm, collected, and keen. She will do whatever is best for our cause and what may benefit you the most, my prince. I trust her explicitly." "As do I. Of all my siblings, Clara is the only one I would entrust with negotiating in my stead. She may appear innocent and reserved, but she's a fierce political animal, a superb orator, and not ashamed to incur tactics that most others would deem disgraceful. And yet, I am her older brother. I worry about her as I care for my other siblings. More so thanks to this debacle." The prince rubbed his eyes and let out a long, tired sigh. "Juliana, my prince, have you found anything?" he asked, turning around, his expression cold and regal. "Nothing yet, my prince," Juliana replied with a frown. "I have already ruled out the possibility that Gregor, Lukacs, and Vivian are the traitors in our midst. Gregor, insufferable as he is loyal, stubborn, stuck to his ways, and your usual commoner loathing noble, but loyal. Lukacs was the first target, but he too is loyal without a doubt. House Ishtal may have sided with Duke Draymore, but not all of them share his brother's decision. Trust me, he, above everyone else, is eager to bring the traitors to justice. And Vivian led an exhaustive investigation that ended not 10 minutes ago. She executed a dozen commoner crew members and 2 nobles for gross insubordination and confirmed sabotage attempts. I shall congratulate Vivian for her efforts personally once this situation is over," the prince said, nodding to himself. "Is there a lingering ghost AI in our systems? A stealth beacon, perhaps?" Redford shook his head. "Thankfully, that is not the case. The system was checked thoroughly, and all of our AIs have found nothing. They searched through the code, the channels, and dismantled everything segment by segment, but they couldn't find garbage data, any errors in processing, unexplained energy consumption, or dents in their firewalls. In regards to cyber warfare, we are at top efficiency." The prince remained silent for half a minute before speaking once more. "Any ship we have not detected?" Redford shook his head again. "Even if one of those black ships was following us outside our radar and sensor rangers, the time delay from them informing any possible ambushers to forming an actual response does not match up. Besides, they may be stealth ships, but no ship, no matter how advanced, can mask a warp signature, be it before or after a jump." "I had hoped against hope that I was in the wrong," the prince replied. "My uncle, he has proven to be more cunning than I realized. My greatest worry may be the risk of our nation entering into a civil war that will leave us fragmented and weaker than we already are. But my second concern is these black ships. Who made them? Is another human nation backing my uncle? Did he simply buy them? How many of these ships are at his disposal?" "I wish I could answer those questions, my prince," Redford replied. "Such is the burden of the prince," the prince said weakly. "Juliana, you may commence doing random inspections. Start from the bottom up as regulations dictate, but move quickly. Inform Lukacs to ease the process and find that damnable QEC. The sooner we find it, the better." "What of the traitors?" Juliana asked. "Interrogate them, then execute them. I will not tolerate traitors within my fleet, no matter who they are," the prince ordered with deadly seriousness. "It shall be done," Juliana replied, smiling. In the meantime, Redford spoke up, I shall conduct a personal investigation, my prince. Regarding? The prince asked, raising an eyebrow. After Clara departed, a few technicians informed the staff master that they found hampering and signs of sabotage among a few fighters. The sabotage was so minor that it could have been explained as mere stress use. However, the number of damaged fighters was too great to be a simple coincidence. In addition, one vessel showed more signs of sabotage than the rest. Let me guess. Wyatt Staples's fighter? Juliana asked, her smile vanishing. Redford nodded. I think I will have a pleasant talk with Salazar Reed. Why do you assume it was him who caused it? Redford asked. After the stunt he pulled, you doubt it is not him? Juliana growled. I always advised him to control his idiot, glory-seeking brother better, but he never listened. So his brother, a stupid death like the stupid fool he was, and he blames an innocent just to sate his ego and thirst for compensation. I do not doubt that he's responsible for that sabotage attempt. I do not believe he's behind it, Redford countered. Before Juliana could speak, he continued. After I dismissed him, he returned to his quarters, and after a 2-hour break, he went to the gym and was there venting his frustrations until half an hour ago. There were no messages delivered from his person to anyone else in that time frame. Juliana's smirk returned, and she crossed her arms. Do you make a habit of keeping an eye on officers from other divisions, Redford? Only on those that may cause a threat to my pilots, Redford replied with a passive expression. Whoever is responsible for these sabotages is likely linked to the traitors we are searching for and are now targeting Wyatt. I'm afraid that his recent exploits have marked him as a potential threat. The prince nodded in agreement. Why let a small nuisance today become a major threat tomorrow? Do you think these attempts will persist in the future, Redford? If left unchecked, I'm sure they'll escalate. Do I have permission to proceed, my prince? You do, the prince replied, turning to face the black screen once more. Our forces are limited. We are scattered, disorganized, and incommunicated. We can ill afford to lose talented individuals, less so to the one I owe a debt of gratitude. Ensure that his life is not at risk outside combat. I may not be able to show preference, but I will not stand watching and do nothing. My prince, the two commanders said at the same time. Wait here, the man leading the welcoming party said as he opened a door and closed it behind him. The guards on both sides stood silent, though the Marines proved to be the true professionals while the woodshaft guards shuffled every now and again. Wyatt stood next to Clara while Cynthia took the head of their little group, making it as if she was the most prominent noble present. Clara had asked him several questions regarding anything and everything she could think of asking. Why did he want to buy dried meats and toasted beans? What did they taste like? What did he usually eat? Did he miss his old job? What was it like hauling a garbage hauler? And many more trivial questions. He answered all of them, of course, and he was glad that he could ease her nerves even if just a little. But after their guide announced that they were nearing their destination, she politely ended their private conversation, and all that was left to do was the wait. He looked at the princess and noticed small details about her. She was constantly clenching and unclenching her hands. She bobbed her head up and down slowly, as if she were muttering something only she could hear, and her posture was rigid like a slab of rock. Cynthia, on the other hand, was staunch and firm, unshaken, unbreakable. And here I am, trying to prevent my heart from bursting out of my chest. Clara was right. The buildup is killing me. Is this what diplomats deal with all the time? I suddenly am less envious of their cozy posts, he thought to himself. 10 seconds later, the door opened and their guide returned. All right, you three may enter. The Marines must wait here. Uriel says you can keep your guns, but if you draw them, you'll be a goner, understood? Crystal, Cynthia replied. The guide then fully opened the door, allowing them entrance to the sealed room behind it. The blue-haired woman signaled her companions to enter after her, and they followed. Once inside, the guide closed the door, and a cleansing process began, followed by a pressurization period. Then, the door in front of them opened to reveal a large room. Stepping into the room, Wyatt immediately recognized it as a heavily retrofitted deck that once belonged to a cruiser. Several odd sculptures adorned the walls, along with paintings, a few strange plants, and most odd of all, a large fish tank with several fishes happily swimming inside it. Then in the middle of the spacious room, a desk stood in the middle as several screens dangled from the ceiling, all of them pointing at the lone figure sitting at the other side of the desk. The clanging of the door closing behind them made the lieutenant turn back, only to find that their guide was not to join them. Turning his attention forward again, he focused on Uriel Hoax. In truth, this was the first time he'd seen the man directly. He saw him once in a video recording, but that was it. All he knew about the black-haired man was that he was cunning and brutal, but reasonable and a surprisingly fair dealer, as long as you played by his tune. Seeing him in person further confirmed that. He was a towering man well past 2 meters tall, but he wasn't muscular, rather he was physically strong and lean. His long black hair flowed like a cascade from the back of his head. His facial features were smooth and polished but stern. His eyes were gray and dull, and his skin was slightly tanned, which was surprising given how far they were from any habitable world. "Take a seat," Uriel commanded, signaling to the 6 empty chairs before them. The trio walked down to the seat directly in front of Uriel and then turned to Clara, offering it to her. This caused Uriel to raise an eyebrow in surprise, and more so when the bodyguard and the pilot refused to sit down, preferring to remain standing behind the princess, flanking her and protecting her. "Looks like I'm dealing with a big shot," Uriel chuckled, leaning on his seat and picking a cigarette from a box resting on the desk. His left index finger suddenly split apart to reveal a small flame with which he lighted his cigarette. He inhaled deeply, then exhaled through his nose. "You must be a diplomat sent by the Royal House Astor, are you, girlie?" Wyatt almost choked when he heard the clenching of Cynthia's fists, but nothing worse happened. He spared a glance at Clara, and his eyes widened. Her posture was now relaxed, yet firm. There were no signs of her previous nervousness, and he could have sworn she looked bigger for a brief moment before he blinked. Where did this change come from? "I'm afraid you're not dealing with a mere diplomat or a speaker, my dear Uriel Hoax," Clara replied with a serious, icy, dignified tone. She reached for her helmet and slowly removed it. Uriel Hoax stared at the face of the princess for several seconds until he burst out laughing for nearly half a minute. Oh, ho, this is too good, too rich. An Astor, a real Astor has deemed it necessary to step into my home. Shit must be worse than I thought for a royal blue blood to come preen her feathers here." He's not entirely wrong, Wyatt thought while glancing at Cynthia, who was struggling to keep her cool if her shaking fists were any indication. "As it is, yes, you are correct. The situation across the principality is dire. However, my presence here is not a display of weakness, but rather a show of force and respect, Uriel Hoax," she said sternly, her face stoic, unmoving, and firm. "Seriously, where did this Clara come from? I thought she was too delicate for something like this. But here she is, standing her ground like I've never seen anyone do before." She's terrifying, Waite thought, but also did his best to maintain his composure. "A show of strength?" Uriel chuckled, and his laughter finally ended. "I saw the battle play out from here, Princess. Yes, you gave the Caiston a pummeling, and I'm mighty happy that you did, but you also got your teeth kicked in. Where's this so-called show of strength coming from? It comes from the fact that I am here, ready to negotiate with you instead of conscripting every vessel, crew member, and living being aboard Woodshaft," Clara replied in that same unshakable tone. "You must be aware that my brother, the prince, is waiting for my return at the heart of our fleet, and so you must know that I speak the truth." "Woodshaft isn't defenseless, Princess," Uriel replied, taking a deep inhale from his cigarette. "I am not defenseless either," Clara replied, her voice colder than before. Uriel stared at her for long moments until he began to exhale the smoke through his nostrils. "Those Marines, I see. I've fallen right into a trap without realizing it. They're Royal Marines, aren't they?" "Royal Marines!" Wyatt thought, and small bits and pieces of information connected in his brain. "I knew there were a few Royal Marines on board to protect 2 royals, but over 30 of them? How many more are there? Now it all makes sense. The way they walked, how they never talked. Royal Marines. Woodshaft doesn't have anything that could stand up to 5 of them, let alone 30. "Indeed they are," Clara confirmed, "but worry not. They shan't take hostile actions unless I am harmed, or unless I give them the order to do so. Do you plan on giving me a reason?" I am not a suicidal fool, Uriel replied, sinking into his seat, defeated. What do you want, blue blood? I wish to negotiate, Clara replied, her tone warming up. With 30 walking, thinking killing machines at your beck and call? I hardly call that terms to negotiate, Uriel countered, frowning. They are my insurance that you will not do something stupid, Uriel Hoax. Believe it or not, I do not intend to harm you or anyone else, nor do I seek unfavorable deals, Clara replied. Let's say I believe that you, he said, pointing his cigarette at her, aren't just going to take whatever you want from my station. Take away my people, my resources, and my ships, all to fuel your little war against Duke Draymore. You hardly have anything we could want or desire within your fleet. On the contrary, we have many things that you will find exceptionally interesting and worth your trouble, Clara remarked. Princess, do not take me for a fool. I know a bad deal when I see one. How do you think I was able to take control of Woodshaft in the first place? My father, damn be his name, wasted the wealth of our house on bad business practices until I made deals behind his back. I saved my house from bankruptcy. He repaid me by exiling me. I was just a bastard. I wanted to prove my worth, and when I did, he kicked me out. House Hoax is no more today, all thanks to him, and I only kept my name as a reminder of what happened. He inhaled from his cigarette again and exhaled quickly. You offer me nothing and can demand everything. Should I refuse, I'm certain that your lapdogs will pounce and kill me. His eyes landed on Cynthia and smirked. I'm certain that one is a Winfield, the most loyal dogs of the Astors. The other one? Not sure, but if he's with you, then he's just another glorified blue blood. He thinks I'm a noble? Why would he? Oh, right, my rank insignia, Wyatt realized, frowning. He was new to being hated or looked down on, but it was the first time he felt directly spat upon by someone thinking he was a blue blood. The irony that a deposed blue blood was the one doing it didn't escape him either. Must I repeat myself, Uriel Hoax? Said Clara, sighing and for the first time showing any real measure of emotion ever since taking off her helmet. I have much to offer, and yet my show of respect is met again and again with derision and vulgar mockery. You are fortunate that I am a patient woman. Uriel closed his eyes for a moment and set his cigarette down, ignoring it for the time being. You can demand without repercussion, and yet you don't. Perhaps you are speaking with more honesty than the damn Castons, Princess. You may be criminals, but you are still part of the Principality. It is within my right to enforce the laws of obedience upon all of you in these dire times. However, what would that gain me? Hatred, resentment, invalidation, and festering thoughts of treason. Instead, I offer you a peaceful transaction, unlike House Caston apparently tried to do, she replied. So far, you've done far better than they have, that's for damn sure, said the black-haired older man. Fine, I'll bite. What do you want and what do you offer, Princess? But before you say anything, keep in mind that this is my home, my station, and should you try to take it away from me by force, which I know you will succeed at, we won't go down without a fight. Or I could simply have you removed and place another more amicable and intelligent man aligned with my ambitions and goals, Clara threatened, smirking coldly. Uriel Hoax smirked, picking up his cigarette. In that case, let's play, Princess. You may move first. Wyatt blinked in confusion, and doubly so when he noticed that Cynthia relaxed her posture and unclenched her fists. What just happened? Did I miss anything? He asked himself, bewildered, amazed, and scared all at the same time. Gladly. I'll be blunt, Uriel, we need ships. As many as you can provide that are capable of at least providing screening or escorting duty. We will also require at least 2 large freighters filled with as many electrical components, tools, repair material, spare scrap, replacement parts for engines, armor, controls, and prime resources that can be fitted within their compartments and cargo bays. She paused. Can you provide any of that? The sum will be hefty, but that can be arranged easily. Woodshaft always has an overabundance of such materials and more. Hell, I can probably fit a 3rd freighter if you can afford it, Princess. But the fight-capable ships, those are another story. He paused to take a long puff at his cigarette.